This episode of How To Video isn't so much a tutorial as it's a discussion. Because if you're looking at new camcorders, you're going to see something you didn't even see much of a year ago. You'll see that some camcorders have full-frame sensors and can also shoot in different modes, usually full-frame, Super 35, sometimes 16. Great, one more thing to worry about when you're buying a camera, right? So what's the deal? Do you need full-frame? This is something you can go way down the rabbit hole on and lose days or weeks, and even then, you may not get a straight answer. So instead, let's just have a discussion about it, and I'll see if I can get you to the bottom of the question, why full frame? To start things off, let's have a little history about how full frame came about. Before digital, just about everything was shot on 35mm film, and the standard was Super 35. And that right there is what most of today's camcorders and cinema cameras shoot. The only larger mainstream format that existed before digital was 70mm film, and that was reserved for epic spectacles like IMAX because it was so expensive. Fast forward to the age of digital sensors. ARRI and RED came out with the first digital Super 35 cameras, but around the same time, DSLRs like the Canon 5D started recording video too. They weren't made for video, they were made for photography, so their sensors were bigger. Now here's that Super 35 film strip again, rolling vertically inside the cinema camera. Now turn it on its side, and this is how 35mm film rolls through a photo camera. See, there's a lot more area. So DSLRs had a larger full-frame sensor that was made for photography, and that's what led to this entire trend. Those photo cameras were able to shoot video, and that later led to pro cinema cameras, also shooting on full-frame sensors. And now every camera manufacturer has a pro-level full-frame camera. So the fringe has become the hot new thing. Why? What are the benefits? Well, with larger sensors, you get a shallower depth of field, so it's easier to get your subject to pop off the background and get that three-dimensional look. It's definitely a very cool creative decision, and films like Midsummer have done a great job of using those tools to beautiful effect. I'd say the format is great for beauty shots in commercial film, though for narrative and documentary, maybe it's not needed. Because here's the flip side. With a shallow depth of field, it's so much harder to pull focus reliably and know your subject is in focus. If you want to make your camera assistants head explode, because they're going to be the ones responsible for pulling focus on a big set, tell them you're shooting on a full frame, wide open aperture. They might even cry a little bit. So right about now, you're probably thinking, if there are cameras that exist that shoot full frame and Super 35, why don't I get one of those and then I'm covered no matter what I shoot? In some ways, you are so right. Almost. Here's the thing. Well, three things, actually. First is cost. The only affordable way to shoot full frame is with a mirrorless DSLR camera, and there are definitely compromises with those. For more on that, see our episodes on cameras where we go more into the subject. Otherwise, you have two options, either highest-end cinema cameras or only the flagship camcorder models, and they're all north of $10,000. The second reason is functionality. Full-frame cameras tend to be bigger, they're heavier, they create more heat, and they run through batteries more quickly. And the third reason is also its selling point, lenses. On the surface, it looks like full-frame cameras allow you to use more lenses. Just look at how many full-frame lenses are available versus Super 35. But in some ways, the opposite is true. There are a ton of photo lenses and rehoused cinema lenses that fit full-frame cameras out there, but there aren't that many purpose-built true cinema lenses. Full-frame is pretty new, and the industry's still catching up. And if you don't understand the difference between photo and rehoused lenses and true cinema lenses, now's a pretty good time to pause this and go see our episode on that. Seriously, go ahead. I'll be here when you get back. So yeah, the gist is, if you want to shoot full frame, you're probably going to be shooting on either rehoused lenses or photo lenses with all the limitations that come along with them. And though there are full frame purpose-built cinema lenses now, they're bonkers expensive. Some of the only affordable ones are the Ingenue Easy Zooms, and those aren't cheap either. Whereas my little Fujinon, the lens you're seeing me through right now, runs just over $3,000. Same functionality, but it only covers Super 35. I have to say that most people shoot with rehoused lenses or photo lenses, and they love them. And honestly, you can't tell the difference most times between the look and the picture. But there is something to be said for shooting with cinema-specific gear. And to illustrate this, let's take a trip down memory lane back to 2009 to 2012, when I shot a lot with the Canon 5D, full frame with Nikon photo lenses. I got some nice shots that were maybe a little shaky because I was holding a DSLR instead of a camcorder. Maybe they were hard to get in focus because I was using photo lenses wide open with shallow depth of field. These are some of the hiccups I think of now when I consider shooting with full-frame photo lenses on cameras with form factors that weren't quite built for the job. And now that I shoot Super 35 on a big purpose-built camera, my shots and focus pulls are smoother, and I also get to use a lot of cinema glass that you can only use on Super 35, like Cooke lenses and the old vintage lenses we used here. And those old lenses don't work on full-frame cameras. So I don't know, if you ask me, If I had all the budget in the world, what would I want to shoot on? It would probably be an RE Super 35 camera and vintage lenses. That's just the look I like. However, that being said, my next camera will probably be a camcorder that shoots full frame, just so I have the option. Like I said, it's a rabbit hole. But here's the thing, all this hoopla around full frame has made Super 35 prices come down for cameras and lenses. And honestly, given that all my favorite films since forever were shot on Super 35, anything that helps me shoot that format for less money, I'm all about it. Full frame isn't the next big thing and it doesn't change the game, it just gives you one more option. I hope this helped. Thanks for watching.